You've gotten very good at pretending you don't feel it. Maybe it's a conversation with someone you love. Maybe it's a conversation with someone you work for or someone who works for you. Maybe it's a conversation with a partner, a parent, a friend who's been quietly taking more than they give. Or maybe, and this is the hardest one of all, it's a conversation with yourself, the one where you finally admit something you've been refusing to say out loud for years. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. You felt it the moment I said the word. There was a name that came up, or a face, or a subject, and your stomach did something small and unpleasant. And you thought about it for half a second, and then pushed it right back down where it's been living. That reaction, that flinch, is the most honest thing that's happened to you all day. And here's what I want you to understand tonight, because I think it changes everything. The life you say you want, the freedom, the peace, the relationship, the income, the respect, the clarity, whatever it is, there's a very good chance it's on the other side of that conversation you keep refusing to have. Not on the other side of 10 conversations, not on the other side of a whole personality transplant, on the other side of one. One honest exchange that you've been treating like a locked door when it's actually the only door that leads anywhere you want to go. Now, let me tell you what I've watched over many years of paying attention to how people's lives actually turn out. I've watched people work hard, plan carefully, read the right things, set the right goals, and still stay stuck in the exact same place year after year. And when you look closely at their situation, you almost always find the same thing sitting right there at the center of it. There's a conversation they won't have. There's a truth they won't say. There's a person they won't confront, or a boundary they won't draw, or a request they won't make, or an admission they won't voice. And that one avoidance is holding the entire structure of their stuck life in place. Because here's how it works. When you refuse to have a necessary conversation, you don't just avoid a moment of discomfort. You commit yourself to a lifestyle built around the avoidance. You rearrange your whole existence to keep from ever having to face that one hard thing. You take the longer route. You swallow the resentment. You accept the smaller life because the smaller life doesn't require you to say the difficult sentence. And you tell yourself you're keeping the peace, you're being patient, you're being the bigger person, but you're not. You're paying an enormous ransom to avoid 5 minutes of discomfort. And the ransom compounds every single day you refuse to pay the smaller price. So I want to spend some time tonight taking this apart, because I believe it's one of the most expensive habits a human being can develop. And almost nobody sees it for what it is. We think of avoidance as harmless. We think of it as prudence, as patience, as diplomacy. But avoidance is not neutral. Avoidance is a decision. And it's a decision you make over and over again. And every time you make it, you're choosing a certain kind of future. You're choosing to keep the wall up. You're choosing to stay where you are. And the strange thing about this decision is that it doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like nothing. It feels like just another ordinary day in which you did the reasonable thing and let the difficult subject rest. Let's talk about why we avoid these conversations in the first place. Because I think if you understand the machinery, you can stop being run by it. The reason you avoid the hard conversation is not that you're weak. It's not that you're a coward. It's something much more human and much more understandable than that. You avoid it because your mind is doing a calculation, and the calculation is badly rigged. When you imagine having the conversation, your mind vividly plays out every way it could go wrong. The other person gets angry. The relationship ends. You lose your job. You're rejected, humiliated, misunderstood. Your imagination is very talented at producing these disasters in high definition. But when your mind calculates the cost of not having the conversation, it goes quiet. It shows you almost nothing. Because the cost of avoidance isn't a single dramatic event. It's a slow bleed. It's 1,000 small subtractions spread out over months and years, and no single one of them is vivid enough to alarm you. So the mind compares a loud, vivid, imagined catastrophe on one side against a silent, invisible, drawn-out loss on the other. And of course, it chooses avoidance every time. Of course it does. The scale is broken. It's weighing a scream against a whisper, and the whisper, spread thin enough, sounds like nothing at all, even though the whisper is the thing that's actually taking your life apart. This is the first thing I want you to see clearly. The conversation you're avoiding feels dangerous because you can picture the explosion. But the avoidance you're choosing is far more dangerous because you can't picture the erosion. The explosion, if it even comes, is over in a few minutes, and then you begin to recover from it. The erosion never ends. It works on you every day. It takes a little of your energy, a little of your self-respect, a little of your peace, and it never sends you a bill you can read, so you never notice how much you've paid until you look up one day and realize you've handed over years. Now, I want to describe what these avoided conversations actually cost, because I think naming the price is the only thing that has a chance of changing your behavior. Vague warnings never move anybody. So let me be specific about what you're spending. The first thing you spend is your energy. A conversation you're avoiding does not sit quietly in a drawer waiting for you. It stays active. It runs in the background of your mind constantly, taking up a portion of your attention that you never fully get back. You think you've set it aside, but you haven't. You're carrying it everywhere. You carry it into rooms it has nothing to do with. You carry it to dinner. You carry it to bed. And that carrying, that low, constant hum of unfinished business, is exhausting you in a way you've stopped even noticing. The way a person stops noticing a noise they've heard for years. The second thing you spend is your self-respect. And this one is quieter, but it cuts deeper. Every time you decide not to say the thing that needs saying, you send yourself a message. The message is, I am not someone who can handle this. I am not someone whose needs are worth the risk. I am someone who backs down. You don't say those words to yourself. You'd never say them out loud. But the action says them, and some part of you is always listening to your actions, far more closely than to your words. And over time, all those small acts of backing down accumulate into a quiet, corrosive belief that you are not quite equal to your own life. That belief doesn't announce itself. It just gradually shrinks the size of what you're willing to attempt. The third thing you spend is the relationship itself, which is the great irony of the whole business. Because most people avoid the hard conversation in order to protect the relationship. They stay quiet because they don't want to cause a rupture. They swallow the truth because they think the truth will do damage. But listen to me carefully. The thing you're protecting is already gone. A relationship in which one person cannot say what's true is not a relationship being protected. It's a relationship being embalmed. It looks preserved from the outside, but there's no life left inside it. Because closeness is not the absence of difficult conversations. Closeness is the ability to have them. And when you avoid the hard conversation to keep things pleasant, you are trading the possibility of real connection for the appearance of it. And that is a terrible trade, and you make it every single time you choose the comfortable silence. I want to tell you about a pattern I've seen more times than I can count, because it illustrates something I think most people never grasp. I once knew a man who spent nearly 2 decades in a job that was slowly grinding him down. He was talented. He was capable. He deserved far more than he was getting, in money and in respect, and in the basic dignity of being taken seriously. And everyone around him could see it. But there was one conversation he would not have. The conversation with the person he answered to, in which he would state plainly what he needed and what he was worth and what would happen if those things weren't met. He rehearsed it in his head for years. He would drive home imagining exactly how he'd say it. He'd lie awake constructing the perfect version, but he never had it. And do you know what he told himself the entire time? He told himself he was being strategic. He told himself he was waiting for the right moment. And the right moment, of course, never came, because the right moment is a fiction we invent to make our avoidance sound like wisdom. There is no right moment for a hard conversation. There is only the moment you decide to stop waiting. And he never decided. And eventually the decision was made for him in the worst and most humiliating way. And he walked out of that place with nothing but the bitter knowledge that he'd spent 20 years paying an installment plan on a conversation that would have taken 20 minutes. Now here's the part of that story that haunts me, and I want you to feel the weight of it. The conversation he was so afraid of was never the disaster. The avoidance was the disaster. The conversation was the escape hatch, and he stared at that hatch for 20 years and never opened it because he'd convinced himself that the hatch was the danger. That is the tragedy of avoidance in its purest form. We spend our lives running from the very door that would set us free. We treat the exit like a threat. And the whole time, the thing we're running toward, the safe, familiar, comfortable avoidance, is the actual trap. And it's closing on us so slowly that we mistake it for shelter. So let me ask you a question, and I want you to answer it honestly in the privacy of your own mind. What is the conversation you've been avoiding actually protecting? Not what you tell yourself it's protecting. What is it really protecting? Because when you look closely, you'll almost always find that it's not protecting the other person. It's not protecting the relationship. It's not protecting your future. It's protecting one thing and one thing only. It's protecting you from a single moment of discomfort. That's it. That's the whole prize. You are trading the shape of your entire life to avoid a few minutes of feeling something unpleasant. And when you say it that plainly, the trade sounds insane, because it is insane. And yet nearly everyone makes it quietly every day. Now I want to shift, because I've spent enough time on the cost of avoiding the conversation. And I want to spend some time on what actually happens when you have it. Because I think people's fear of these conversations is built almost entirely on a fantasy. And the fantasy is worse than the reality in nearly every case. Here's what your imagination tells you will happen. It tells you the conversation will be a catastrophe. The other person will react with fury or devastation. The words will come out wrong. You'll be exposed, rejected, destroyed. Your imagination stages the whole thing as a courtroom drama in which you are on trial and the verdict is ruin. But that's almost never how it goes. And I want to tell you what actually happens most of the time, because the truth is far less dramatic and far more useful. Most of the time, when you finally have the hard conversation, the first thing you feel is not devastation. It's relief. It's the sensation of setting down a weight you'd been carrying so long. You'd forgotten it wasn't part of your body. The words come out. The sky does not fall. The other person, more often than not, responds with something far closer to understanding than you expected. Because it turns out most people are not the monsters our fear paints them as. And even when the conversation is genuinely difficult, even when there's anger or tears or a real rupture, there is still that undercurrent of relief, because at least now it's real. At least now you're standing in the truth instead of hiding from it, and the truth, however uncomfortable, is always more livable than the lie. I want to be honest with you, though, because I don't want to sell you a fairy tale. Sometimes the hard conversation does end something. Sometimes you say the true thing and the relationship cannot survive it. Sometimes you draw the boundary and the person walks away. Sometimes you make the request and the answer